This meeting is now called to order. For roll call, everyone is present this evening. I'd like to welcome everyone. We'll now take a moment of reflection and respect, please. Thank you. Confirmation of the agenda, please.
That Council adopts the agenda for the meeting of November 3rd, 2021 as presented.
Okay, someone to move and someone to second. Councillor Barber and Councillor Charlton. Are there any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Okay, seeing none. We'll move into delegations and public meetings. And this evening, we have the pleasure of having Kimberly Earls do a presentation for SCORE. Welcome, Kimberly, and go right ahead with your presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me here this evening, and I'm very pleased to give you a partner update on the activities of SCORE over the last short while. As many of you may be aware, SCORE has three priorities in our strategic plan. One is infrastructure supporting economic development, and the other is human capital supporting economic development, and the third is focus on sector development. So we'll start right off with the infrastructure. And this past year, we've had, year and a half actually, we've had quite a focus on infrastructure. And a large portion of that has been transportation related. As many of you may know that we're able to join us or provide input into our AMO and Roma delegations over the years. We've been advocating for some time for the need for a master transportation plan for Southwestern Ontario. And the last year, it was announced that our past chairman, Stephen Molnar, mayor of Tillsonburg, was appointed to the mayor's task force for the Southwestern Ontario MTO Master Transportation Plan. So we were very pleased to hear that. And I know that's of particular importance to Elgin County, as you're currently undergoing a review and processing your own master transportation plan. So that provides a direct link to our strategy, and there's some really good alignment and good collaboration there. So we've done a lot of focus on community transportation over the past year and a half. We've created the Southwest Community Transit Network, and that network is based on a tiered system so that any partner municipality that is operating a transit system is able to keep their own branding and their own authority over their own systems, but they also become part of a larger network. And so I'll go into a little bit more detail over that, about that in the next slide, but that is something that has taken up a fair bit of time and resources. And really the outcomes of that is to create efficiencies in community transportation, provide opportunities in communities that don't have their own transit system to ensure that we can provide support and maybe get some routing across the region to those communities, and some cost savings. And so the other piece that part of the transportation that we've really been focused on is the future of short line rail, and that's of particular importance here in Aylmer. We've been working with a short line rail provider and businesses along that line that really depend on that as part of their logistics model for their transportation planning and their business infrastructure. And so there are about 800, little over 800 jobs across the region that could be impacted by if there was to be a loss of that short line rail permanently. And most of the businesses are in manufacturing or agricultural sector. And we do provide continued support to broadband related issues and energy specifically. Again, we've provided a lot of advocacy and communications on behalf of the expansion of the natural gas program, which again is extremely important to our manufacturing sector and our agricultural sector. Next slide, please. So the future of short line rail, I thought we'd take a few minutes and focus on this because I believe it is very important, especially to Elmer. Again, there are 800 jobs across the region that would be affected by the loss of this if we didn't undertake the project. And key business partners and opportunities that are in Elmer, of course, are the IGCP. We've also identified, we've done a rail corridor inventory where we were able to identify other industrial lands that we may be able to develop and work with the short line rail partners to ensure that there's not only that we keep those 800 jobs, but there's opportunity for new business and further growth. And that piece of track runs, as you all probably know, from St. Thomas, just east of St. Thomas into the west end of Norfolk County, just east of Cortland. And so as part of that project, we will be making application to the National Trade Corridor Fund. We believe that project aligns well with their priorities and objectives for that fund. We've been having ongoing meetings with the business community and county partners across the region. So yeah, next slide, please. So under human capital, we've actually had a fair bit of success in that area as well. At the outset of COVID, we were certainly took a leadership role in connecting with the federal and provincial government in areas related to labor for seasonal agricultural workforce, which as you may remember back to the early days of the pandemic, was really quite stressful for the agricultural community, both those folks coming into the country and those depending on that labor force. And so we were able to offer a lot of support, direction, and connection there. As a result of that, we really there's been a gap in labor force in the agriculture and manufacturing sector for some time, but it's certainly intensified since the onset of the pandemic. And we've really focused our efforts on creating capacity specifically for the agricultural workforce over the past year. And to that end, we've continued our partnership with Fanshawe College in the Agribusiness Management program. It's offered both at the Simcoe campus and at the London campus. As well, we partnered with the workforce planning boards and Conestoga College to create the agricultural equipment operator program offered at the Conestoga College County of Brant campus. And that program is a 16-week program. It received interest from people across the region and in fact across the province. And because of that intense interest, it is actually undergoing process for becoming a permanent certificate program. So that's been really fantastic to see that response, not only from students wishing to enter into the agricultural sector, but certainly from employer standpoint in taking on those students right out of the program. So that's been really exciting. We continue to partner with all post-secondary institutions, looking for ways to, again, continue to support, most importantly, for SCORE's purposes and to follow our strategic plan, the agricultural workforce and also manufacturing. Next slide, please. In addition to those two items, our focus on sector development. We've also had some pretty substantial projects there over the past while. We were able to partner with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture on, again, another project that was designed to increase capacity within the agricultural workforce, and that was branded under the Feeding Your Future. And SCORE connected and collaborated with 7 commodity organizations to produce 9 videos for training for those particular sectors with those commodities. So That was a pretty intensive and fun, actually, project. And you can certainly catch those videos on both the OFA websites and the SCORE website. And additionally, we partnered with the OFA for their Always in Season project. And we featured all counties in a more of a marketing and promotion, supporting and celebrating local food and agriculture. And again, those are on both websites. And I'd be really pleased if you took a moment and checked out that as well. Again, we've offered policy programming inputs at both federal and provincial level for agricultural sector development. We've certainly been able to contribute to addressing some of those issues for the ag community, again, largely related to workforce. And we've been supporting the development of the hazelnut industry as they look to moving forward at a critical stage in their growth. And again, we continue to market the region domestically and globally as a good agricultural area to do business and a great place to work. So next slide, please. And in terms of advocacy and connecting, that's one of the areas that SCORE continues to do well, I believe. Over the past year, we've had 25 delegation meetings with cabinet ministers. We continue to have ongoing discussions with upper levels of government in between those meetings, so able to inform some policy, both at the local level, but also at a more provincial and federal level. And we've also been collaborating with other organizations, such as the Elgin Middlesex Oxford Workforce Planning and Development Board. And one of the projects that came about at that collaboration over the last year was the Fresher project. And that was a study undertaken or led by the University of Western Ontario. And that was to look at the impact of COVID on retail and food establishments across the region and beyond. And that report is also available online. But it's probably not a huge surprise to many of us that that was a sector, and specifically that retail and food establishments that were really hit hard through the last year and a half. And then we also were able to collaborate with the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus. They received some funding to access some data, and SCORE was able to partner with them to disseminate and analyze some of the data and then share it back out through all the partner counties. And finally, kind of in the advocacy and connecting, we were able to provide 12 letters of support to other organizations, resulting in their successful funding to support their mandates across the region. We ourselves also were able to attract some funding. I think we were around the $251,000 mark that we attracted over the last year and a half. Next slide, please. And this slide is just a review of the partnership. So not only does SCORE create some opportunities through good partners such as yourselves in being able to say, we've accomplished this, and this over the past year or 2 years. But as noted by our chair and other board members, the value also continues to be cumulative over time. And so that's something that I just thought was important to kind of put in this slide to make sure that we understand that partnership, really the benefits are really realized over the course of a fair length of time, since we are dealing with those larger regional issues. We're an action-oriented organization. We're focused on strategic planning and implementation. We have a positive reputation with other organizations and levels of government, and we have the ability to tackle the projects and issues that are larger in scale and maybe a little bit more than one municipality could take on individually, but we're small enough to reach consensus and move forward in supporting of our neighbor municipalities. We have the ability to attract and leverage funding on a regional scale, and I think that that's been one of our ongoing successes. And next slide, please. And this last slide is just a a thought that I wanted to leave you all with in terms of economic development partnerships, and that is we've accomplished a great deal as a 5-county partnership. Good neighbors working together for the good of all. And that's it for my presentation tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kimberly. Are there any questions or comments for Kimberly from council? Councillor Charlton, go ahead.
For your worship, I just wonder how the track is. Does it need much repair or updates? And what kind of timeline are we looking at before the wheels roll down the track?
Yeah, great question. So we've, and some of you may remember, we started to see this sort of the discontinuance or the signs of discontinuance back in 2014, actually. And at that time, I think we were given some pretty staggering numbers as to what it would take to improve the track. We've had some engineering studies completed through our short line service provider, and the dollar value is not, I think, to the extent that we initially thought, because that's an internal, it's in an internal process with our short line rail service provider right now. I don't want to give an exact dollar amount, but the application that we're putting forward to the National Trade Corridor Fund is significant in size. And so, and how soon could we see that, and what does that timeline look like? I'm thinking that we'll probably start to see some activity along the rail, and you may have already seen some initial things such as brush cutting and just basic maintenance along there over the last short while. But the plan is to have the project phased in over the next 2 to 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments for Kimberly? Okay, I don't see anybody's hand up. Well, thank you very much, Kimberly, for coming to our council meeting and giving us an update. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Hope you do too. Take care. Josh, could you read the resolution, please?
That the presentation from Kimberly Earls regarding South Central Ontario Region Economic Development Corporation partnership with Aylmer be received as information.
Okay, someone to move and someone to second. Councillor Chapman and Councillor Oslach. Are there any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Council will now recess and commence a committee of adjustment hearing. Could I have the resolution, please, Josh?
That council recess at 7:18 p.m. to commence a committee of adjustment hearing to consider application 0721 respecting 29 Linden Street submitted by Johan Fair.
Okay, someone to move and someone to second. Deputy Mayor Andrews and Councillor Chapman. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The Committee of Adjustment of the Town of Aylmer is convened to consider application A0721. Additional information relating to the applications is available for inspection between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. weekdays at Aylmer Town Hall. Signed written submissions shall be accepted by the Secretary Treasurer prior to or during the hearing, and such submissions shall be available for inspection by any interested party. In addition, if a party who is notified does not attend the hearing, the committee can proceed, and the party is not entitled to any further notice of hearings. A copy of the decision will be mailed to those persons who attend or are represented at the hearing and those who have filed a written request with the Secretary for notice of the committee's decision. The committee will receive input in the following order: agent or applicant, the public, manager of planning and development, and the clerk. Application number A0721 is made by Johan Fair, the owner of the property known municipally as 29 Linden Street in the town of Aylmer. The applicant is requesting a minor variance from the requirements of the town zoning bylaw number 5799 as amended. The applicant is seeking relief from section 9.3 zone requirements of the zoning bylaw related to lot area minimum and lot frontage minimum for 1/2 of a semi-detached dwelling. Is the applicant agent present? And if so, do you wish to speak to the application? And Josh, I don't believe they're here.
No, through you, the applicant did not register to speak at this meeting this evening.
Okay, thank you. And could you confirm, Josh, did any other members of the public wish to speak on this application?
Through you, Mayor French, no additional correspondence was received with respect to this application before us tonight.
Okay, thank you, Josh. I'm going to turn this over to the Manager of Planning and Development to provide more comments. Welcome, Christy.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. The committee is going to be quite familiar with this property. 29 Linden Street has been in front of council a number of times in the last few months. So previously, Mr. Fair has sought relief from the provisions of the zoning bylaw related to lot area and lot frontage for the whole lot to facilitate the construction of his semi-detached dwelling with 2 units. Subsequent to that, in the summer, Mr. Fair submitted an application for consent to sever, which went to the county's land division committee and was conditionally approved. One of the conditions that was included at the recommendation of the town was that relief be sought for the provisions again for a lot area and lot frontage for now half of the original lots to accommodate each unit of the semi-detached dwelling. I've evaluated the application and am of the opinion that the requested variances are minor in nature, desirable and appropriate, and they conform to the general intent of the zoning bylaw and official plan. They're consistent with the report that was previously offered regarding minor variances on this property. Therefore, I'm recommending approval. Just to note, this application was circulated. We did not receive any comments. We received one inquiry from a neighboring landowner just requesting some clarification on the circulation notice that was received. So within the report, I did recommend that the committee consider offering Mr. Fair a refund for his application fees on this application. And that's just due to this being an oversight originally. Could have been all included in a single application. But unfortunately, that didn't occur. So I have requested that the committee do consider refunding Mr. Fair the $400. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Christy. Are there any questions or concerns from the members? Member Charlton, go ahead.
Through your worship. So we're going through this process because they want to sever half the lot. So there's going to be 2 lots there. Is that correct? And is it easier to get a severance after everything's all built and seek some minor variances? Is it easier to do that when everything's all done? I just wonder, did they build a house too big for the property, or did they not measure it properly? Or I just wondered why this is happening. Like, it wouldn't happen on a new build. We hope we don't have to go through this several times in the Cottonwood subdivision. And I'm just wondering why we are going through it now. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, may I respond?
Certainly, go ahead.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Charlton. Through you, Mayor French, this is a little bit of an anomaly situation. This was an existing lot of record that had a single detached dwelling on it originally. That dwelling was demolished, and per the provisions of the zoning bylaw, there is a permission that you can build a semi-detached dwelling in the R2 zone, which is was zoned. However, because the lot frontage was deficient and the lot area was deficient, the original relief was provided to accommodate a semi. So regardless of the size of the house, it still would have been deficient based on type. So these are provisions within our zoning bylaw that are somewhat legacy, and over time we hope to address them. In terms of process, when we're severing a semi-detached dwelling, so a side-by-side dwelling, I find it easier to actually establish the dividing line once the dwelling is constructed. Otherwise, you fear the risk of having to build exactly on that center line, which can be challenging at times. I've seen cases where it's built and then they have to go to the committee to request a variance or to rezone the property because those setbacks weren't achieved on either side. So I think the process that has been followed here is absolutely fine. It's just that when that original minor variance was submitted to the town or the committee for consideration, it should have considered the full breadth of potential land uses on the site, including severance, as our provisions or zone requirements are very specific for a single, a semi on a single lot, a duplex, or one half of a semi. So in retrospect, we should have just amended more provisions originally than having to come back and clean it up.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments? Okay, I don't see any hands up. Josh, did you receive any other communications related to this application?
Through you, Madam Chair, there was no additional communications received.
Okay, thank you, Josh. With no further questions or comments, could you read the resolution, Josh, please?
That report plan 1221, planning evaluation report, application for minor variance, number A0721, respecting 29 Linden Street, be received by the Committee of Adjustment for information, and that the Committee of Adjustment conduct a virtual public hearing for the application for minor variance A0721 on Wednesday, November 3rd, 2021 to receive comments from the public, and that the application for minor variance A0721 seeking relief from section 9.3 zone requirements of the zoning bylaw related to lot area minimum and frontage minimum for one half of a semi-detached dwelling be approved, and that administration be directed to provide confirmation to the Elgin County Land Division Committee indicating fulfillment of application E6221, condition 1, as noted in the notice of decision dated August 25th, 2021, upon conclusion of the appeal period associated with this application, and further, that administration be directed to refund the applicant the fees associated with the application for minor variance A0721 in the amount of $400.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Someone to move and someone to second. Member Barber and Member Andrews, are there any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Josh, could you read the next resolution, please?
That the Committee of Adjustment hearing is adjourned at 7:27 p.m.
Okay, someone to move and someone to second. Councillor Chapman and Councillor Oslach. And are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. And the next resolution, please, Josh.
That the council meeting be reconvened at 7:28 p.m.
Okay, someone to move and someone to second. Deputy Mayor Andrews and Councillor Charlton. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. We'll move into the adoption of council and committee minutes. Minutes to approve.
That council approves the following minutes. Regular virtual meeting of council held on October 20th, 2021.
Okay, someone to move and someone to second. Councillor Ham and Councillor Chapman. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Excuse me. Minutes to receive.
That council receives the following minutes. Meeting of the Downtown Elmer BIA Board of Management held on September 15th, 2021.
Someone to move and someone to second. Deputy Mayor Andrews and Councillor Chapman. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. We'll move into the consent agenda now. For report plan 1421.
That consent agenda item 7.1 entitled report plan 1421 informational report environmental scan of additional residential unit policies and regulations across Elgin County be received for information.
Okay, someone to move and someone to second. Councillor Ham and Councillor Charlton. Just before I go to the vote, Christy, is there anything further you'd like to add to this report?
Through you, Mayor French, not at this time.
Okay, are there any questions or comments from council? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. We'll move into action items, report plan 1321.
That report, Plan 1321, entitled Proposed General Housekeeping Amendment to the Zoning Bylaw 2021 scoped, be received for information, and that council approves the recommendation for amendments as outlined in the report Plan 1321, and further that council consider giving 3 readings to the bylaw 6221, being a bylaw to amend certain provisions of the zoning bylaw.
Okay, someone to move and someone to second. Deputy Mayor Andrews and Councillor Ham. Christy, did you have anything further to add to this report?
Through you, Mayor French, just a quick overview. This is really a scoped amendment. So at the direction of council from the last meeting, what I have done is I've removed the additional dwelling unit regulations that were proposed, and we can address them at a later point in time. I've received some feedback on those additional dwelling unit regulations that I'm currently reviewing and contemplating how to work into the proposed regulations. So really this report and accompanying bylaw has been scoped to general administrative and consolidating amendments. So those are just the slight tweaks in wording, bringing in the previously approved bylaws and really consolidating our document, updating some maps, as well as the amendment to apply the holding provision on the Elview industrial farmlands. So at our last meeting, where we had our public meeting, we received input from Ms. Barb Rosser regarding the holding provision. So that feedback that was provided has been integrated into the proposed bylaw at this time. Slight wording changes to including separation setbacks, and then removing references to a secondary plan requirement. Other than that, everything is as presented originally, and I am happy to answer any questions council may have.
Okay, thank you, Christy. Are there any questions for Christy? Councillor Charlton.
Through you, Your Worship. Do you anticipate many minor variances through this project?
Through you, Mayor French. In what terms, Councillor Charlton, if I may, just for clarification?
Well, often permits are given, work is done, and it may not be in the right position in the yard. That type of thing could be too close to the lot line.
So if I may, at this point in time, we're really just going through zoning bylaw amendments that have already been put into place. So these are the amendments that have taken place in the last, I think, about 18 months. So we're not introducing anything new here. We're really just removing some of the excess regulations, clarifying some language, and having some general direction on those holding zone lands. So at this point in time, I would not anticipate any minor variances to be required. However, we will have to remove the holding provision if approved from the industrial lands as we start to see development come to town when we're in that position to develop.
All right, thank you.
Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. The next report is Fire 0821.
That report, Fire 0821, entitled Elmer Fire Department Apparatus Replacement, be received for information, and that council approve an exemption to the town's procurement policy to allow for the single source purchase of fire apparatus pumper 4 to Safe Tech emergency vehicles.
Okay, someone to move and someone to second. Councillor Chapman and Councillor Barber. Good evening, Chief McCone. Would you like to do a brief overview of your report, please?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. Actually, my intention was to bring this to all of you early next year, but as we are all aware of the global supply and demand and inflating prices, staff felt it necessary to bring this forward 2 months ahead of schedule. Additionally, with the few hiccups we're having in our current pumper 4, it's time to look at the replacement schedule for that truck. I want to reassure council that staff has investigated all the options and have brought forward the best recommendation to the situation that's at hand. The real goal of this purchase is to secure the cab and chassis that's already on order from Metal Fab, who many of you are aware built our last Pumper 3 truck. They have a truck on order that fits the needs of the department, and they have a scheduled build time for the truck to enter their line to be built. That's really the crunch of the time frame. From other suppliers, builders of trucks, my understanding is that Freightliner has canceled many cab and chassis with no time of fulfilling that order. So it's something that I really feel we should be looking at. The silver lining perhaps in all this is we have 2 years to pay for it. With council's permission, we would give it go ahead next year, and we would still be looking at delivery mid 2023. So it falls in the timeline of replacing the current pumper and gets the ball rolling perhaps faster than sourcing it out the other directions. We've looked at several stock trucks. We've looked at every option that was out there, and this is the best recommendation that I bring before council. And thank you, Worship, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Chief McCone. Are there any questions for the chief? Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Worship. To the chief, a 4-part question, if I may. In your overview, you said that you looked at the various options, and I'm assuming that might be new, used, and demonstrator. What was your thought process in that, and how did it turn out?
We explore. Of course, we were working within a budget, and I'm happy to report that this truck falls within that process. Many supply trucks are on-site dealer-ready trucks were just out of our budget. Several trucks that were available didn't meet the needs of the municipality in regards to water and our clean cab concept, and the used concept wasn't really explored for the avenue that we already have a used truck, and we should replace new when possible to meet the NFPA standards. A lot of times when we have a used apparatus, it might need several updates to bring it to current NFPA standards and requirements of the Highway Traffic Act as such. So I hope that answers your question, Councillor.
Okay, thank you for that. You said the design changes. How would the new design improve the level of service for the people of the community? What have you done differently on this truck?
Through the mayor, Councillor, that's a great question. What we've done with this truck is understanding the expansion, the growth that Elmer is going to see, and our maybe not so heavy hydrated areas. This truck carries quite a bit of water. It carries 1,300 gallons of water. That's a lot on a pumper. That provides a little extra security for those areas that maybe don't have the hydrant protection. It allows us time to lay the lines and establish a water supply. The other advantage of this truck is the foam fighting capabilities. As we all heard with the short line rail coming in, that could present some more challenges towards the fire department. And we want to make sure that we are prepared and ready. And this truck will certainly have the equipment and be built to take on the challenges that might come our way through that. The big exciting part of this truck is the clean cab concept. I fear that COVID and such other viruses might be in our life for a very long time. So this truck is equipped with a cleaning, scrubbing system that runs constantly where the firefighters sit in the truck. It purifies the air and takes all the contaminants out of the air. Additionally, it's got storage on the outside for their bunker gear. So again, we're taking away those carcinogenics and making it a safer vehicle for our firefighters currently and future firefighters to operate.
Thank you. You mentioned that the truck will be carrying more water. More water is more weight, about 5,000 pounds plus the weight of the tank. You comfortable with the spring specs on that, on a single axle?
Through the mayor, councillor, yes. I leave it up to the engineers and the design team at Metal Fab. They have an outstanding track record, and they reassure us that this is quite common for a pumper to carry 1,000, 1,300 gallons of water. Lots of times, as you're aware, they can carry a little bit more, but you go to a tandem axle. So it does meet the Canadian specs and the NFPA standards on a truck carrying that much water.
Okay, thank you for those answers. Just one more, if I may. With the increased cost of equipment, not only in your department, but the other town departments that we deal with, it's going to mess up your long-range purchasing plan for vehicles. Will you be adjusting that that plan in time?
Again, through the mayor, councillor, yes, we will be looking at that. It's something that the CAO and Director of Finance have worked closely with myself to present councils with a schedule of the replacement apparatus and potential costs. There is a time and a place to look at alternative solutions to used apparatus. When I say used, I possibly don't mean the cabin chassis. Perhaps it's as simple as using our box off our rescue on a new cab. There are ways to save definitely in the fire service, and in these times I can assure you, councillor, that we are exploring those avenues to the limits.
Thank you. And Mayor French, a question to Heather, if I may.
Certainly. Go ahead, Councillor Barber.
Heather, at one particular time, large capital purchases in departments were specific to the department. In the last few years, it's been rolled into, those numbers have been rolled into asset management. And I was wondering if there is any way to make those purchases a little more transparent, that it's easier to identify where they're going and how that asset management money is being distributed? Do you follow?
If I may, Mayor French, I might be able to provide a little bit of background to Councillor Barber just while we wait for Heather. I saw she had her mic on, but it appears that there's some audio issues.
Go ahead, Josh.
Certainly, through you, I think on these matters, I do recall what you're talking about, Councillor Barber, in that there used to be specific capital budgets on the departmental level, and I think that when it comes time to budget this year, it would likely be a possibility for staff to represent that data at the departmental level, along with the asset management level. The reason that we've bundled it into the asset management as well is just a result of the town having an obligation to do that reporting. So I suspect it's a matter of convenience, but I fully understand, how that could be perhaps misleading, and consolidating that at the departmental level is likely something that's not overly difficult for the treasurer to undertake moving forward.
Okay, that would be much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor French.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Oslach.
Yes, Your Worship, to the chief. I'm reading the financial impact on my tablet here. Chief, what is the actual budget for this pumper?
Through the mayor to Councillor Oslach, The actual budgeting on this truck was $550,000.
Okay. Nowhere in this report does that figure mentioned, but I understand that it comes from asset management and a donation from local businesses, and I'm reading the financial impact. So thanks, Chief. You answered my question.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments for the chief?
Air French.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I lost connection there. I apologize. I'm not sure if the answer was provided to Councillor Barber or not regarding the asset management.
I think Josh made a good attempt and he gave a fairly good answer, but if you want to, do you want to elaborate or?
I just wanted to mention that prior to me coming to the town, the asset management reserve was consolidated. They used to, I believe, have a few different reserves, and they consolidated them just purely so that all the money was in one spot. So we can identify certainly between fire and any other assets for different departments in the town. That's no problem. We can do that through the capital budget process, which is coming up shortly. So I don't know if that helps with identifying the different needs. But also I was going to mention that the only reason why we pulled this ahead of the budget process is because of the timing that the chief's talking about. So normally we wouldn't allow anybody to jump the line prior to the full capital presentation. But in this case, with the issues that the chief's discussed already, we just thought it would be proper to do so.
Okay, thank you, Heather. Does that help, Councillor Barber?
Excellent. Thank you, Worship.
Okay, are there any further questions or comments? So I just want to make a couple of comments. I think council remembers that when we started doing our asset management, each and every asset that we have has a life expectancy. So we understand how much that is and what we've got to plan for in the future. So I can understand the concern because it's consolidated, but I believe that our staff can show us each and every asset we have. So just for your comfort level, there are ways that we can check and find out that information. As well, I want to commend the chief. This is great foresight, and you're going to save us some money by the looks of this if we look at this now. And it's a matter of supply and demand. And I understand 100% that if we don't look at this now, we may be waiting for several years to get this, and we certainly do need this. If I'm not mistaken, Chief McCone, I came to visit you about a month ago and you were showing me the equipment and everything. And was this not one of the trucks that you were showing me and explaining to me about the fact that we needed a new one shortly?
You are correct, Your Worship. Yes, I've had a couple other councillors stop in, and yes, they are aware.
And Councillor Barber happened to be there that day as well. So we did get a good view of the current vehicle that we have, and we're explained that we certainly would need a new one. So I have great comfort level with the way the staff are approaching this project. So with no further questions or comments, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. And thank you, Chief McComb. The next item up is Report Clerk 3921.
That report, Clerk 3921, respecting BIA correspondence, communities in bloom and doors open participation, be received for information, and that council refer the correspondence to staff for a follow-up report at a future regular virtual meeting of council.
Okay, someone to move and someone to second. Deputy Mayor Andrews and Councillor Charlton. Did you have anything further you would like to add to this report, Josh?
Certainly, through your worship and two members of council, staff are in receipt of correspondence from the BIA dated October 23rd, just respecting two different letters of support for the town's involvement in the communities in bloom and the Doors Open initiative in the future. It's my understanding that the town has participated in both of these initiatives in the past, and I think that from a staff's perspective, must agree that both initiatives do present tremendous opportunities to showcase the town, bring visitors to the community, and also to demonstrate community spirit. So just as we started to undertake some preliminary research, we realized that both of these programs do require a fair bit of planning and in some cases financial resources on the part of the town, just given that it's been a while since we've participated, and also given that the programs have both been changed quite a bit as a result of COVID-19 disruptions. Staff saw it as potentially worthwhile to do some further research on some of the pros and cons, and just to give council a more complete picture on what we're getting ourselves into if we choose to proceed with these initiatives. So again, the recommendation is that council refers this to staff, and we'll undertake some research and follow up with the report so that council can perhaps provide some direction in the future.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Are there any questions or comments? Okay, we'll start with Councillor Oslach, then Councillor Barber, and then Councillor Charlton. Go ahead, Councillor Oslach.
Your worship, this was brought to the BIA last meeting, and basically the committee was all in favor of promoting the town. We're suffering from COVID-19 in this town, and we have to look forward to coming out of this COVID-19 and doors open and communities in bloom. Basically showcases the town, and doors open is very simple. It's only one day during the year. 3 municipalities get together and bring visitors into town. And last time we did it, I think in 2016, I think we brought over 900 people to the town of Elmer. And I think it's good to showcase the town, because we've underwent a lot of basically ugly, basically how do I put this? Advertising, through the media, and basically doors open. It's very simple, but communities in bloom basically is a summer-long project, and the judges generally came in September, and it's to make the town beautiful, basically. And I'm in support of both of these projects. Maybe we can only do one next year. I don't know. I'm supporting only one. Basically, we can only achieve one, and we can't achieve both, basically. But I think it's good for the town. It's opening up the town, and it's good for business.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Oslach. Councillor Barber, you're up.
Thank you, Your Worship. Subject to a positive staff report, I can't think of a better time than to tout the virtues of this community. And we'll see what the report says and take it from there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Charlton, you're next.
Through Your Worship, I would suggest that we don't research this thing to death and spend a lot of time, because we might put as much time and money into the research as it would cost. So I'm in favor of both the programs. I think it'll showcase the town, and that's what we need. Thank you.
Okay, are there any further questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Is there any new business or matters of urgency? Okay, seeing none, we'll move into reading of bylaws and proceedings thereon. First and second readings.
Council gives first and second reading to bylaw 5821, being a bylaw to regulate the sale of fireworks and setting off of fireworks in the town of Elmer, and bylaw 6521, being a bylaw to regulate election signs in the town of Elmer.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Someone to move and someone to second. Councillor Ham and Deputy Mayor Andrews. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. And next up is three readings.
That council approves and gives 3 readings to bylaw 6221, being a bylaw to amend the Corporation of the Town of Elmer's zoning bylaw number 5799, and bylaw 6421, being a bylaw to amend the bylaw 3204, which is a bylaw to adopt an emergency management program for the Town of Elmer.
Okay, someone to move and someone to second. Councillor Chapman and Councillor Barber. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. Are there any inquiries by members? Councillor Charlton, go ahead.
Through your worship to maybe Rob Johnson. We've been talking about water quite a bit lately, and our sewage capacity, and a lot of towns around are growing, and I just wondered if Springfield decides to grow. We're currently handling the sewage that comes from Springfield. If they decide to put water in, I'm not sure if that's going to come from Aylmer, or where do they get the water now? Or I guess it's all wells. Anyway, I just thought that we may be having to supply services in Springfield. And I just wondered if there's been any forethought to that. Thank you.
Through your worship to Councillor Charlton, certainly our water tower and EA is out for comment. I think we'll be circulating all of the agencies, so the township could comment on our water tower at that time, for sure. There's an existing agreement in place for a specific volume of affluent to come to the lagoons, and certainly if they were looking to expand that or get water capacity, those are probably bigger decisions than simply an engineering decision, and that would probably all have to come to council for a review and stuff like that. But certainly it wouldn't rest with myself or engineering. I always say things can be done, but it would be a sort of a broader discussion for the council to consider moving past any existing arrangement that we have to supply anything, if that answers your question.
Yeah, that's close enough. And I just have one more, if I may.
Go ahead, Councillor Charlton.
I was just wondering if the BIA or anyone is going to try to put displays in the vacant store windows downtown for the holiday season. Be a nice touch if they were not vacant or just papered over. It'd be nice to have a display in some of them. And that's all. I don't know if Jamie, if you would have a comment on that. Thank you.
Do you have any comment, Jamie?
Through your worship, that's not something that we've discussed. It's kind of short on time now, but we can bring it forward and see what they say.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Statements and committee reports. Councillor Oslach?
Yeah, yes, your worship. We have a full service in Springfield this year, the Legion, on November the 11th at 9 o'clock. We have a parade and a full service at the Cenotaph in Elmer at 11 o'clock. We generally form up about 10:45, and it's a full service. We have OPC on parade this year, and basically we're trying to get back to normal, basically, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Oslach. Are there any further statements or committee reports this evening? Okay, seeing none. There is no report of the mayor, notice of motion. And now we'll move into a closed session resolution, please, Josh.
That council moves into a meeting closed to the public at 7:59 p.m. to discuss the following matters, and it's a report authored by the Chief Administrative Officer, Report CAO 6421, respecting a lands update. And the exemption is pursuant to Section 239(2)C of the Municipal Act as amended, as the subject matter pertains to a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Someone to move and someone to second. Deputy Mayor Andrews and Councillor Ham. Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? And that's carried. So we'll take a moment to move into closed session. Thank you.
This conference is no longer being recorded.